That's right, folks. Welcome to the Lake Lewis Jr. Show. And I had to start that way with yesterday. What in the world was that? If you were at Northwest Stadium like I was covering the Commanders-Bears game, you saw an epic ending. You saw one of the best finishes in all of sports, the Hail Mary. And for my money, Washington needs to go ahead and get this thing trademarked and call it Hail Mary, because that's kind of like, a little signature trademark thing that they do, that my baby does, in-game host Janine Samuel. She has the hell yeah. Can I get a hell yeah? Well, that Hail Mary, can I get a Hail Mary? Because that's what the Commanders did yesterday. Jayden Daniels, Mr. Bad Rib himself. And I tried to tell everybody all week that Jayden Daniels was playing in this football game. And people keep asking me now, like, well, how'd you know Jayden was playing? Did he tell you he was playing? No, Jayden Daniels, of course, didn't tell me he was playing. Adam Peters didn't tell me he was playing. Dan Quinn didn't tell me he was playing. Josh Harris didn't tell me he was playing. Nor did any of his teammates, nor did any of the administrators in the building, which should be commended. If you're the Washington Commanders, you didn't have any leaks in the building. So people were asking me, how did I know Jayden was going to play? Because it's very simple, folks. You have an alpha dog as your quarterback for the Washington Commanders. This is what an elite player looks like, what an elite player talks like, what an elite player does on the field. And it's stuff of legend. And I said this before. I said this to some of my colleagues who weren't sure, and I respect their opinion. And, it would have made sense if you had to keep him out if he was hurt. But one thing I do know about this new setup in Washington, this is my 15th year covering this team. One thing I know about this setup this year, this particular moment in time, they would not put out their most prized possession if it meant he was hurt, if it meant he could become more injured. They would not do that to him for a win. They wouldn't do it. It's a different group of people now who you can clearly see, not just the fact that they respect the players as men first, family men first, but it's a universal respect. It's a respect for us in the media. The fact that they kept this thing close to the vest just goes to show me that this thing is going in the right direction. That the Washington Commanders have officially, and I've been saying this for weeks now, but if you needed more time, okay, I respect that. If you needed more time to know that this was a good outfit, well, they have officially arrived now. When you have 65, 70-yard Hail Mary passes completed, you're having a magical season. You're having a run that we haven't seen here in a long time. To be specific, haven't seen this since 2008. You haven't seen it. So at 6-2 now, atop the NFC East division, when you see teams like the Cowboys losing again against the 49ers, and now they're 3-4, the Eagles did win their game. I had a feeling that they were going to go into Cincinnati and beat the Bengals, and they did convincingly, 37-17. So now they sit at 5-2, and the Commanders, as I said, are 6-2. Cowboys 3-4. New York Giants, I still don't think they're a bad football team, but I don't think they're going to be able to keep pace with the two top teams, the Eagles and Washington. It's going to come down to a two-team race for the division. And I think right now, if you're Washington, if you're fans of the Commanders, and you saw how they won that game yesterday, where they didn't necessarily have their best offensive outing. They were moving the ball against this Bears defense. Surprisingly, they were able to move the football, but they had a lot of drop passes. Terry McLaurin dropped one. Obviously he had the huge 61-yarder, catch from Jayden. It was a beautiful thrown ball, great catch by Terry, stopped just short of the end zone. But they had a couple drops. Everyone who dropped the pass, though, redeemed themselves. Noah Brown had a drop that would have extended a drive. Well, guess what? Noah Brown was the hero of the game because he caught the Hail Mary pass off the tip. Terry McLaurin, over 100 yards receiving, and he's continuing to show that he's just a great football player. So everyone kind of redeemed themselves. Zach Ertz had a touchdown that I thought he still caught it, but the referees called something different. And I really don't want to get too much on the referees yet because one of my guests who's coming on a little bit later on, He definitely won't mince his words. Mr. DJ Bland does a great job covering the NFC South and the NFL for sportsjourney.com. He'll be on with me, in our next segment. And then we also have, one of my good friends, just happens to be the title sponsor owner from Thermopack, Dr. George Garbis. I'm going to have him on with me as well, get his take as a fan and a season ticket holder for Washington. He was at the game with his daughter and his son and his wife, his whole family basically. And they have a video that he sent to me that I can share with you guys, just showing you the pandemonium in the stadium. And there's tons of videos that are circulating around in this game, but I wanted to get one from somebody that, is near and dear to me, a good friend of mine, Dr. George Garbis. So he'll be on with me a little bit later as well. I mean, the game was just, what can you say? I mean, you had two young heavyweights, slugging it out. Caleb Williams, the number one pick in the draft, didn't have a great football game, but you did see the things that makes him special. You saw him extend plays. You saw the off-schedule stuff. But he missed some throws. He sailed a couple balls high in the game. And then, of course, Jaden Daniels. What can you say? I mean, the guy's an electric football player. Extended plays with his legs, put some guys on the ground with some great moves, and then made some great throws. And then ultimately, the biggest throw of his career so far, and the biggest throw for this new regime in Washington, that 70-yard Hail Mary pass was unbelievable. 61 yards to be exact. What can you say about that? This football game had a playoff atmosphere, and I can tell you the crowd was amped up. There were tons of Bears fans in the building, and they wanted to make their presence felt, and a little bit too much for my liking, because at the end of the game, they were wolfing it up, talking a lot of smack, a lot of trash, and a lot of as we would say, but I can't say that on the air. So it was a lot. Well, guess what? Karma, poetic justice. And you have your player, Stevenson, talking to the crowd, didn't even see the last play unfolding until towards the end when he had to run over and get in the scrum for the ball that was being thrown. It's just little things like that can cost you an NFL game, can cost you a game in any pro sport, and it cost the Bears, the lack of, I think, preparation for that. I'm not saying Eberflus, their head coach, who is a great defensive mind, make no mistake about that. It just didn't look like they were comfortable in this whole couple plays before that, because even the play before that, where Washington threw the 13-yard pass to Terry McLaurin and he stepped out, I think with 3 seconds left, if I'm not mistaken, that was bad defense by the Bears. They basically conceded those yards for Washington, and I understand their thinking is just don't let anything get behind you, which ultimately happened on the next play. But you just made it a little bit too easy for Jaden Daniels, who I think they may have forgotten maybe all the preparation because they were only sold on Caleb Williams and probably didn't meet with anyone else. They didn't realize that Jaden Daniels has a rocket arm. And now everyone keeps saying, oh, his arm's okay, it's not that strong. Bull. The kid has a gun. And you saw it not just on that play, but you saw it on the deep pass to Terry McLaurin. Perfectly thrown deep ball. And that's what Jaden Daniels was doing when he was in college at LSU. He's doing that at Arizona State before that. But at LSU, you saw the deep ball in effect with two NFL wide receivers in Brian Thomas and Malik Neighbors. Brian Thomas with the Jaguars now, great rookie down there. And, of course, Malik Neighbors, great rookie with the New York Giants. This is what he did in college, and he's doing that now on the next level. So for Chicago, I just thought it was poor planning for maybe Jaden Daniels, who maybe they thought wouldn't be able to get the ball down there because of the rib injury. Well, Chicago gets the L, and now they fall to 4-3, and Washington gets the dub, and now they are at 6-2. So a couple storylines in this game too that I think, briefly before we go to break that we can talk about, and that's the fact that Washington's defense was the catalyst in this football game. Their defense got after it, folks. I mean, they made things happen. You saw a pass rush. Caleb Williams was under duress most of the game. Obviously, he made some great electrifying runs and made guys miss. That's what he does. Very cerebral as far as his running style. Doesn't wow you, but it does have a Patrick Mahomes-ish type running ability to it where he just makes guys miss and he picks up first downs, and he did that. He extended plays and made some throws that were clearly off schedule. But on the day, Caleb Williams had, 131 yards passing. That's not going to win a lot of football games in the NFL, regardless of what your defense is doing. To Chicago's defense's credit, they were getting moved on in between the 20s, but they would hold the fort inside the red zone. And that's something that I'm sure Cliff Kingsbury and Washington will address to get better, because they're leaving valuable points off the board that almost cost them, like yesterday, could have cost them if that Hail Mary didn't bail them out. So there's so many things that you can go back to this football game. Two young heavyweight quarterbacks. Clearly CBS was the big winner out of anyone because they got their money's worth. You had the number one pick in Caleb Williams against the number 2 pick and Jaden Daniels in Caleb Williams' backyard where he grew up, and he had his high school football team out there carrying the flag. And I didn't know if that was disrespectful or not. I know Gonzaga, I'm the math dude, but a Gonzaga guy, these guys are out there holding the flag, and it was great for the city, great to show that love. But Caleb doesn't play for Washington; he plays for the Bears, so it was a little too much love for my liking. But that's a whole nother story. You had those two young guns out there showing the world their thing, what they can do, and why they're going to be two of the best, in the near future in the NFL. Jaden Daniels to me is a little bit ahead of Caleb right now as far as his trajectory. I just think he looks like the more dynamic quarterback at this moment. But I'm sure Caleb's going to have a lot to be said about that because he's a great young quarterback, great prospect as well. So, you look at the defenses in this game. Chicago's defense was getting all the hype, and Washington's defense was still being talked about how, you can pass on them, you can do this and you can do that. Well, over the last couple of weeks, Washington's defense has turned the corner, and they're really starting to play really well. And yesterday was a testament to that. They gave Caleb fits. If it weren't for a couple plays here or there, Washington was easily pitching a shutout. So they had that going on, and then some things changed, and we saw DeAndre Smith break off DeAndre Swift break off the long run, and that got Chicago going. It awakened them, so to speak. And then of course they scored again and got 2-point conversion as well. So it looked like Chicago had this game in the bag, and then of course the Hail Mary came, and it was something of legend. We're going to show you this video of Dr. George Garbis as we go to break. And then when he comes on, we'll look at it again with him. I mean, it was great. It was just his kids going crazy. And here's some other videos as well as far as the way this football game ended. So we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll have more right here on the Lake Lewis Jr. Show. Welcome back, everyone, to the Lake Lewis Jr. Show. And now I'm going to bring in my good friend. God does a great job covering a couple things for us. If you're a racing fan, he's an expert at NHRA, drag racing circuit, the whole nine. And then, of course, he covers the NFC South for sportsjourney.com. He's been with me from our days back at USA Today, from about.com, from heavy.com. My good friend DJ Bland. What's going on, my friend?
What's up, man? I mean, what a weekend in sports and what a weekend for DC.
Man, it was epic at that stadium last night. And normally after the games, it's like, I got this long drive to get home. And in years past, you've gone home with L's hung on you. Yesterday was almost one of those feelings where you didn't even want to leave the stadium. I mean, as media, everyone was festive. Everyone was excited in the press box when the Hail Mary happened. And I mean, have you ever seen anything like that, DJ?
Oh man, it's been a long time, I should say, and I think our earliest is Robert Griffin III against Minnesota. That walk off run into the end zone, he jumps into the stands. That place exploded, but I would almost beg to differ that this one had uh,
Yeah.
major pop, and I mean it was cool. That was cool to watch, and been covering this team for 12 years, and I'm sitting at the table, I'm talking to my wife, I'm saying, hey, there's a lot of lessons learned today from them, how to finish, and I'm standing there and I'm looking at this thing, and he's buying time. He throws it, it tips, and I'm looking at Noah Brown, and I'm like, no, I've never done that in 12 years.
Okay.
They had the tip, and then I'm like, he caught it. Noah Brown caught it, and I'm like screaming, yelling. I have never done that in the 12 years I've been covering this team. Almost passed out with all the screaming. I know my neighbors heard me. Uh, and my wife is like, this never happens to Washington.
No,
Never.
never.
And I mean, to see the
Oh man.
staff, just
Yeah.
everyone. And you can tell when a guy is him, when Jaden's reaction was like, I guess I did it again.
I mean, he's
It was
he's
amazing.
he's calm and cool, and for my money, I can't tell you how many guys in the locker room after the game said, I mean, look, I even interviewed Noah Brown at the podium, and it's out there. You can go to NFL.com. It's on there. You hear me asking him about what's it like, with Jaden, and he's just like number five. He said, as long as we have number five, we feel like we can win football games. And he said he wouldn't want to play for any quarterback in the league, period. And that's kind of the prevailing theme now. I'm sure you've seen the
Yes.
footage of Bobby Wagner, a sure first ballot Hall of Famer, waiting for Jayden to,
Yeah.
to to do his interview or whatever, waiting for him. Frankie Louvu was with him. These probably are your two outside of Jaden and Terry McLaurin. These are probably like the two most recognizable faces now for the Commanders. They're
Yes.
waiting for their rookie quarterback. Only thing that
They,
Jaden is, as far as immaturity and youngness and just coming into the league, is just the title of rookie. Other than that,
that's
he's a
it.
veteran caliber quarterback. And for my money, Caleb looked really good. But Caleb looked flawed to me yesterday. And
Yeah.
Caleb missed some throws that Jaden doesn't miss. Uh,
Yes.
and I think for anyone that walks away from this game thinking that, I know there's some other media out there. I'm not going to mention their names. I'm sure you know who I'm talking about, but they're like, oh, Caleb outplayed
Yep.
and the Bears were better. What freaking game were you watching? And I was there. So don't tell me that the Bears were the better team. The Bears got hot at the end. Yes, they did. You can't take anything away from them. But in a perfect world, poetic justice was served. Washington should have won that football game. And had it not been for some calls from some refs in the game, this game could have been over at halftime, legitimately.
Right. Right. That that I'm gonna keep it classy for you, you guys who
Please
think
do.
that you know everything. I'm gonna keep it classy because I do have some choice words, but we're gonna keep it classy here. I'm gonna tell you, the NFL has to stop fooling itself with this nonsense with officiating. And I 2006, before I even got with Sports Journey, I had an article on this, and it's still much of the same, and it's even worse. I mean, Martin was practically tackled and no call. And it was blatantly obvious. It's all film. You can see it all over. You see the replays all over Twitter. He was tackled. You see this illegal man downfield. Look, man, when guys don't have nothing to do with the play, and you can hear our guy Connor Forrest talk about this too on the post-game Burgundy Gold post-game live show, but they're not even part of the play. We shouldn't be calling that at all.
Yeah.
There needs to be some cleaning up and clarity here. It goes back to a few weeks ago where you got Sam Darnold practically getting his head ripped off. We got two guys standing around, and they must have cataract or something because they can't see a guy's head practically almost coming off because somebody's got his face mask. This stuff's got to stop. And to be honest with you, the hip drop tackle on
Montez
Jaden.
Sweat. Yeah.
Come on, bro. That's a hip drop. That's
it was not just a hip drop. It was a horse collar at the same time.
Absolutely.
You could have taken your choice on what you wanted to call.
Yep.
And when you don't make those calls, I think what's happening, honestly, DJ, is that these quarterbacks now are athletic. They're running and they're able to extend plays. And I think sometimes the officiating, they don't know what to do with these guys when they're outside the pocket. I know they say that they're now become like a natural runner or a running back, but they're still your quarterbacks, and you still have to protect your most valuable assets in your league. And I'm not saying you put skirts on them or you it's flag football, because it's not. It's the NFL. You're going to be hurt. But if you're going to sell that you're trying to protect people, if you're going to sell that the game is a certain way, then you don't change kickoff returns. You don't do all these different things that, and look, I'm part of the league, part of the media, and you have to be careful what you say. You do. But man, the fans see this now, and this doesn't have to come from us, likes of you and I in the media. It's fans are seeing this stuff, and these referees are determining games when they shouldn't have to. So, for my money, I just think that you had a potential game of the year come down now to the play of the year because it wasn't the game of the year. It was the play of the year that happened to help the game's ratings, of course. But it was a good football game until the referees really got involved in it.
Yep. And, it's something that needs to be addressed here. The bottom line is that people are now putting money on these games. And people are losing money because refs are making bad calls. And you, as the NFL, just seem to stand back and be like, well, nothing to see here. We'll send the team an apology on Monday. That doesn't cut it anymore. When a guy snaps his fibula because of a hip drop tackle, and because he was a quarterback, your referees didn't think it was important. The teams don't want to hear, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
They don't, because their prized player, whether it's a running back, a wide receiver, or anybody, tight end, they're losing a prize that they needed to be successful. And that sorry doesn't cut it. It doesn't change anything. And if you want to take something out of the game, then you enforce it with everyone. And it's not being done that way. And for guys who get paid to do this job, they need to be held more accountable. And I don't want to hear because you don't get to, do the big game, or you don't get to do the big playoff game. You love finding the players. So time somebody start getting fined, I guarantee you these calls start getting a little bit better than what they are.
No, I think that's fair. I know over the years, that's always been the take has been, that these referees will not be fined and not held accountable. I mean, their way of being held accountable is that, again, you don't call a certain game, you don't call a playoff game or a Super Bowl game. But hell, it's only 6 or 7 referees that are going to call those Super Bowls anyway, out of a couple hundred. So I mean, that's not good odds as far as finding the 7 best. That's almost like saying you're finding the 7 least weakest referees. And so you got to figure this thing out. But As far as the Commanders, big win against Chicago, travel to New York this week. We'll be up there. I'm looking forward to seeing how they respond to a team that they should just beat the snot out of. Let's be
Yep.
honest about it. And I want to see now, two things can happen. I know I was on a little earlier with our good friend Anthony Armstrong, former receiver with Washington, and he's like, Lake, I'm a little worried that this might be a trap game. And I'm like, no, no, we're not talking like that anymore because the makeup of this football team with Dan Quinn doesn't come across like that. So in about 2 minutes or so, let's switch gears here real quick because I want to get your take real quick on the NFC South. You called it, man. You said that you had the Falcons taking the Bucks, and they did so. Have they really put a stranglehold on the NFC South?
I'll say yes and no. And
Okay.
here's my reasoning on that. They swept them, and that's great. That works well, and that works in their favor if they're ever to be a tie. What Atlanta needs to not do now is the defense has to be shored up. Yes, they made some plays, but I mean, you guys let a lot of no names from the Bucks make big plays when they really shouldn't have because guys were out of position. That's point blank, period. The tackling wasn't great. It just so happened to be Baker Mayfield, and sometimes he feel like he has to force the issue. And
Yeah.
when he does, he gives you a few.
Yeah.
And that's where it all gets made up at. But think about it. They got to face, I believe, Washington at the end of the season. If it comes down to a final game, well, you're going against a quarterback that ain't about giving away too much, if at all.
Yeah.
So you have to shore it up on defense or discontinuing to have shootouts. We've seen the ups and downs of the Falcons. And sometimes the offense just never seems to get it together because the opposing team's defense is just that good, getting a lot of pressure on Kirk. They're stopping the run. They're forcing you to pass the ball. Sometimes they get a little bit out of sync, and Kirk gets in. And when that happens, and your defense is acting like they're Swiss cheese, so they have to shore that up on defense, and then they can have a stranglehold. Once we start seeing that, then we'll start talking about them having a stranglehold on the division. But I think the division is going to pretty much help them out because Carolina's not good. The Saints aren't good. And, we can talk about Dennis Allen and the coaching and all of that. And Tampa Bay is injured. They're beat up. Give them a lot of credit, though, for what they came in. Todd Bowles, we know the guy is always going to be prepared. He had his team prepared, and they just fell a little bit short to a team that's better than them right now, especially on the offensive side of the ball with those missing pieces.
Okay. Well, look, my friend, I appreciate you coming on. Wanted to get you in for about 10, 15. We a little longer, but that's okay. We're having fun. And,
Yeah.
I'll get you back on later on in the week. Get your prediction for the games coming up this weekend. A couple really important football games in the divisions, so we'll have a chance to talk about that. But folks, DJ Bland does an excellent, excellent job on the Not Bland show. You can follow him on social media at Not Bland 21. Did I
Yep.
get that right?
You got
Because you're a big Sean Taylor fan. So at Not Bland 21. So we're gonna take a break. When we
Yep.
come back, our final segment of today's podcast here on the Lake Lewis Show. So hang tight. All right, welcome back everyone to the Lake Lewis Jr. Show. And as we like to do, we try to change things up a little bit. We're going to bring in the guy that you see all the time on the show as far as our presenting sponsor, the owner of ThermoPack, Dr. George Garbis. But Dr. Garbis is a good friend, but more importantly, he is a Commanders fan, a season ticket holder, and he was there yesterday. He was at the scene of the crime. I was there
Yep.
as well, and I just want to get your take, man, on what you saw as a fan.
Well, first off, let me start by saying, Chicago scores, and me being the 52-year-old dad looks at the kids because he's trying to get out of here to get home to go to bed for work in the morning. I looked at my son and I said, hey, all right, let's go. And he looked me dead in my eye and he said, no, Dad, it's Jaden.
Oh,
So I
wow.
said, okay. So I didn't want to press. Usually I did.
Hmm.
And then thank God I didn't. Because can you imagine we're walking to the car and that happens? I don't think I would have ever lived that down.
Oh
And
no,
it was
that would
just
have been
it was
forever.
euphoric.
It
It was
was.
euphoric. It was you know, as it's happening, I'm looking around. I don't think I've ever seen more. I don't think I've ever seen many, but more 50-some-year-old men crying in their chair because
I'm
it's
so
been
glad.
that long since we had that kind of love and feeling in Washington.
And I'm so glad you're saying that because I actually reported that, at the stadium last night before our post game show. And I said, I saw grown men crying on my way
Oh,
down to the field. It was just like they're asking themselves that I just witnessed this. And for my money, Doc, I think that this is legitimately, if you're one of these people that talks in terms of curses and PTSD, which I don't liken to think, in sports terms, that's a real medical issue. Um, if you do feel like that, clearly after yesterday, you have to just think that those days are gone. You have a real talent at quarterback. You have a good team. You have a great makeup of coaches. You have an ownership group that's trying to do things the right way. If you can't get on board of this thing, something's wrong with you, really,
yeah. No, I mean, it was, listen, it was a tough game to watch. We drive down there. The refs did not help us at all. You
at
know,
all.
when you're when you're at the game, it's hard because, I'm yelling at the fact that we're downfield and, lineman downfield. I'm texting my buddy and he said he might have been a tenth of a yard past with his knee. And you're just like, come, I mean, here we go again, right? Here, how many times are here?
Oh, we've seen
Here we
this a
go
lot.
again. But then what you notice is these guys, you talk about Jaden's ability. Okay, 100%. But it's not just his ability or his athletic ability. It's his ability to bring out the best of everybody that's around him. That defense was come on.
That's
I
the
mean,
best they've looked all year, and they've been looking good each week now. They've been stepping
they
up.
were well. Look. To put a little critique in the game, watching it from the side or watching it from two levels up,
Mhm,
they looked a little unorganized, right? Players jumping in, who's subbing in,
mhm,
you come in, no, go back out.
mhm.
You can see there was a little bit of confusion, and that could be maybe because Jay didn't practice all week. Maybe
Yeah.
they, who knows,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
So it was a little frustrating as a fan to watch because come on, get your stuff together, right? But in the end, he got it done.
Listen, that's all you can ask. I mean, that's what your quarterback is supposed to find ways to win games at the end. And all the greats, you talk about the arm talent and the numbers and all that. But you and I both know what they're judged by. And they're judged by W's. And
That's it.
that's why Tom Brady's considered the GOAT. That's why Patrick Mahomes now looks like the guy that can really, challenge Tom Brady's greatness overall because he's winning Super Bowls. Kansas City's
Yeah,
8-0 right now, you know.
yeah.
But if you look at Jaden, for him to start his pro career off in this kind of limelight where I mean, Caleb was the number one pick in the draft, but you wouldn't know that unless you just obviously are a football person, You wouldn't know that. And from what my eyes saw yesterday, and unfortunately in my business, Doc, there are some homers, there are some people on the opposing team in Chicago. I'm not going to mention their names, but you surface they're online and they're
Yeah.
talking about how the Bears dominated Washington and Caleb was the best. That's false
No,
on all accounts. Washington
100%.
was the better football team yesterday. They deserved that win because they were playing Chicago and they were playing stripes, if you know what I mean.
So, we talked about that on the way home. You,
Hmm.
you look at the highlights for Caleb, right?
Hmm.
All you got to do is look at his Heisman. We talked about this on another show.
Hmm.
Look at his Heisman highlight film.
Hmm.
It's all extending play,
Off schedule. Yep.
right? When you look at JD, it's
Hmm.
all in the pocket,
Yeah.
passing the ball, getting things done. I mean, let's. The man threw for over 300 yards. Still had okay. Should have had at least one touchdown pass.
I mean, he had a lot
Should
of
have been
drop
two.
balls in the game too, by the
It
way.
should have been two touchdowns. Tight
Yeah,
end who I don't remember if it was Ertz who
it was
caught
Zach
that ball.
Ertz. Yep.
Ertz, and then the screen pass with the man downfield. There's two.
Yeah.
He rushed for another what? 80?
56. 56.
Okay, 50. So, now give me Caleb stats
126 yards passing, 131 yards passing.
and some bad throws.
Yeah, and keep in mind, I broke it down even further. Three of those completions that were for a combined total of like 82 yards were off schedule, where he ran around,
Right.
he found someone open.
Yep.
So it wasn't within the context of the offense.
No.
And again, this isn't to knock Caleb. He's a
No,
great
I mean,
talent. He's going to be phenomenal.
no.
But your eyes aren't deceiving you. Jaden looks like the better player right now. And I don't know if that's because of the 55 games he played in college. He's just more prepared for the league, but he just looks dynamic. And it's nice to say this to a fan, a season ticket holder. Isn't it nice for you to know that he's yours?
That
Finally,
drive
you have
home,
your
that,
own
that, that
toy
drive
now.
home was worth it. That drive, another quick story. Our manufacturer for Thermopack
Mhm.
is in Chicago. So
Oh,
he texted me before the game. He's like, "All right, what are we betting?" I said, "All right, tell you what. If Chicago wins, I will send you some crab cakes." All right,
okay.
fine. I said, "But if Washington wins,
Mhm.
I get a Chicago style pizza." So I'm gonna just tell you what I texted
Expecting
him on the
that
way
deep
down the
dish
ramp.
coming, right?
On the way down the ramp, all I texted him was, "We'll take cheese, please."
Man,
And then I just got a thumbs down emoji, right?
this was epic.
Terrible.
One of my
Oh,
neighbors actually, I want to shout him out. He's a good dude, Brad. What's up, man? He checks the show out all the time. He wasn't trash talking by any means, and he actually texted me, during the game when I was at the stadium, and he said, Washington, the Commanders look really good, and I told him Chicago, my assessment was I think their offensive line needs to get better. But I
yeah.
said this is a really good young football team. I said, so these two teams are going to be problems around the league for years to come with these two quarterbacks. Before we wrap it up though, just we have your video and of your kids celebrating, and we're going
Yeah.
to play that here for people to see. And I just, again, man, I just, for you, I know, the kids, like, my daughter never wanted to be around that. She used to say they suck, you know? So now for this to be happening, they're experiencing what we experienced when we were younger. This used to be the norm here in Washington, the winning and going to Super Bowls. And if
That
you didn't
feeling.
make it to the Super Bowl, it was a terrible season. If you didn't make it to the Super Bowl, well, now they're starting to see the makings of something special, and that's got to make you feel awfully, awfully
Oh,
proud at the same time.
amazing. It's amazing. I mean, I mean, my wife was there. My two kids who are football fans were there, and just to share that experience with them, it's something we'll never forget. And something told me not to argue and stay in my seat. Something did, and
That was
like
man
Jaden likes to
upstairs.
say, that's
Yeah.
it. Like Jaden likes to say, he was he was he wasn't too happy with that cornerback taunting us at the
Yeah.
end, and I think he wanted to make it very clear. So it was great. It was great.
Exactly. Karma. Well, look, my friend, I wanted to bring you on briefly, just to get your take, a season ticket holder, a fan, a friend of mine, friend of the program, obviously, one of
Okay.
the reasons why the show's doing so well. But yeah, man, I think we have many more coming this year
I
along.
think so too.
So this
I
is
sent you the video, didn't I?
Yeah, absolutely did. Absolutely did. So
That's pretty good.
when we go to break, everyone's going to enjoy this video because this is the feeling around town right now. Everyone's still on cloud nine. Everyone's there. That's all they're talking about. And we haven't had these days. As a media person, this is my 15th year with the team. I haven't experienced this like this. I had the 2012 season. This is different because this seems a little bit more sustainable, where you see this is building and it's going to get better and better and
It's
better.
not a fluke.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not a fluke. And to have Dexter Manley there to enjoy it with us was nice too.
Oh man, Dexter,
Dexter,
the
yeah,
guy.
that was
I
the
saw him
best.
waving that flag out there.
Oh, that was the best.
Well,
That
look,
was the
my
best.
friend, I appreciate you greatly coming
Thank you,
on,
man.
and we'll be on the phone soon. Okay.
Hell yeah.
All right. All right. Take care now.
Take care, boss.
All
Bye
right,
bye.
folks. Man, this was a good one today. Again, and talking with my good friend Anthony Armstrong earlier, he used to play for the Washington Redskins, when they were called the Redskins. And he was starting wide receiver for the team. And, he was talking about the Giants game next week and how he feels like that's a trap game. And, just like I said with DJ, we talked about this with DJ, and there's no trap games, So I am looking forward to seeing this team moving forward as they get into the second half of their schedule. Because there are more winnable games on there for me, that they should very much so win. And I'm not sure if there's a foe on their schedule left that they can't beat. I mean, the Eagles are going to be the toughest 2 games left on their schedule, in my opinion. And I think they beat them. I at least think they split with the Eagles at worst. They do have the Falcons, and that could be a season finale. But if a division is clinched by either team, or if something like that nature has happened, you may not even be playing certain starters. So it may not have the luster of Kirk Cousins coming back to DC for the Falcons. It may not have the same luster at that point. They have the Steelers coming up in 2 weeks. That'll be their next home game. And the Steelers are playing really well right now. Can Russell Wilson continue to elevate the play of the George Pickens of the world, and see if that can help these guys? But for right now, I don't think there's a team on Washington's schedule that's left that they can't beat. So we'll see how they do. 6 wins right now. I predicted that they were no worse than a 9-win football team before the season started, and that's on record. I have receipts for that too, by the way. And I think they surpassed that number. I truly believe that. So we'll find out how all that stuff plays out. But folks, as always, if you want to follow me, all you have to do is follow me on social media at Lake Lewis Jr. If you want to subscribe to this podcast, which I hope you do, I hope you like it, you can subscribe to it on YouTube at Lake Lewis Jr., or you can go through the YouTube channel, which is at Sports Journey, and subscribe that way. That way you get practice recaps, post-game recaps that I do with ABC Television in DC. You can see those things on there as well. And if you want to subscribe to it and just get the audio version, you can do it via Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio. The Lake Lewis Jr. Show is on all formats. So try to get it out to you how you like it. And I greatly appreciate all the support and all the well wishes, and just, everybody that's out there that's pulling for me personally. I appreciate it. We got this thing going and we're having a lot of fun with it. And it's always better when the team you cover is winning as well. So it's a good day for Washington Commanders fans, and hopefully this thing can continue. But as always, I want you to be safe out there, have fun with your family and friends, and you leave everybody else alone. And I'll see you again right here on the Lake Lewis Jr. Show. Take care.